All right, now we get to look at the really cool ways of finding clients and taking actions. First, I should just show you that you can have as many client records open as you want. So if I hit Command 1 or Control 1 on the PC, notice I get another window. If I find another client, notice that they're individually named. So I could have a ton of these open up. With all these open up, I can easily go back and forth between clients when they come in, and it's just sort of like having a set of folders on my desk, but they never get disorganized. And I can look at them all if I want to that way too. So on Windows, I believe there's a way of exposing all windows. On Mac, you just swipe down with 4 fingers on your trackpad and you're good to go. So you can go choose any of those. Again, when I open them, they open in this order where they're all actually neatly stacked. And you can put them anywhere you want. So I can see George, Christopher, Chris, Chris, and Chris. So let's look at some of these client totals. If we look at George Carlson, we'll notice that he has a balance of $0. If we look at all of his services, turns out that he paid $70 for a $70 service, and he paid $120 for a $120 service, so he's all paid up. If we look at Chris Moore, we notice that she has a positive balance and her insurance company has a negative balance. Now this is something that automatically appeared. Now this other payer balance is something that automatically appeared. If we look over at Chris Massa's record, he doesn't have that. And the reason for that is this automatically shows up when other payers have been billed. So if we go to payors, we'll notice that she has a couple insurance companies assigned to her. And if we go to all services, we'll notice that down here on August 1st, 2015, we charged $45 and that was billed both to her and to her insurance. And it looks like she paid $10, but her insurance still owes us the balance of $35. So we'll look more at that when we look at insurance billing, but we can see what other people owe for this client. Additionally, she has a credit, and she has a credit because she's been buying packages. So she bought a package and she got a $200 credit for that, and so she has visits remaining on that package. If we look at James Smith, we'll notice that nothing has happened for James Smith. Maybe he came in and we have yet to enter anything for him, so we see these no services. And if we look at all services, there's nothing there. So he might just be a contact that we have or somebody who is yet to receive any services. Again, everything updates sort of automatically here. If I take out his birthday, for example, notice what happens to the age here. I tap out of that field, it saves that he doesn't have a birthday in there, so the age disappears. I put the birthday back, and magically his age calculates again. So one of the simplest ways of finding is finding groups that we have assigned to people. So we could go to the Find icon here, search records, or hit Command F or Control F. And I do that, I tap in this field, the little drop down comes up, and let's see who's in my, Long Islander group. So it selects the number for that, I tap enter, and it turns out that I only have one Long Islander in my Long Islander group. Let's say that I want to find based on a different group. And let's look at meditation. I have nobody assigned to my meditation group. And that's why I have this no records match this find criteria. So occasionally you might come up with something like that when you're searching for something that happened within a date range, and yet there's no clients for that date range. So now let's go to a group I know we've got a lot of people in. It's the chiropractic client group. And now you see we've got 27 records, 27 people that are in this chiropractic client group. Now, I could narrow that group. So let's say that I want to find within that group just the women. So if I click on this, which is search within found set, it's also Command 8 or Control 8, and then I choose female, hit enter, then I notice I've got 15 women that happen to be in the chiropractic client group. Now I could keep refining this as much as I wanted to. I could narrow that again and say, let's refine within this, search within this, and maybe I want it where their age is greater than 40. Turns out that I have 7 clients that are over 40 that are female in the chiropractic client group. And so we started out with 27, then we cut that roughly in half when we searched just for the women, found 15, and then we cut that roughly in half again when we searched for just those over age 40. So it's really flexible. Now, obviously, I could find all of this at once if I wanted to. We could enter find mode, and if we knew what we were looking for, we'd say, okay, so I'm looking for a chiropractic client, I am looking for women, and I am looking for people over 40. And it'll give us that same group of 7 people. So you can put in as many criteria as you want when you're doing your initial find, but sometimes it's really helpful to search within a found set. Like if I show all the clients here, I have 33 clients. That's not a lot. I hope you have hundreds and thousands of clients in your client management solution. But let's say I wanted to do this birthday find, and right now we are in the month of October when I'm recording this. So I hit birthday find, and you notice now that I've got 3 people with birthdays in October. Maybe I would like to find not only people with a birthday this month, maybe I got 100 back because I have so many clients. I just want to find people with a birthday this month who've actually been adjusted this year because I want to send them a special offer. So I've got this group, and it's a group of 3, and then I can go to all services and find within that set, and I'll put in 2016. I could have typed greater than 1/1/2016, and that would return the 2016 records, or I can just tap in 2016 because it'll just assume that we're looking for everything that happened in that year. And then I can put in the service, I'll put in ADJ for adjusted, and you notice see that fills that out for me. I hit enter, it goes to find, and it looks like there's only one person of that group that has birthdays in October that got adjusted this year. So 2016, here we are, 2016, and there's an adjustment. Now, if we go back to that other birthday group, so let's open up another window here, and we look at the birthday group. Now we've got 3 records. If we look down, we'll say, well, why didn't Laura Larson appear in this group? We tap on all services, we notice, well, she took a Tai Chi class last year, but in fact hasn't been adjusted this year. We look at Monica Jones, she attended a lecture last year, has not been adjusted this year. So again, you can really refine exactly who you're looking for. So let's go back to that lecture idea. We just saw that Monica came to a lecture. So let's find everybody else that came to that same lecture. So I do find, and I can put LECT because that's lecture, right? And I've got 12 people that have come to lectures. Now from here, I can do some really cool things. I could just send them all an email. I could email this group, and that means I'm going to email everybody in this set. That's 12 of them. I tap email, automatically opens my email client, puts in all the addresses, and notice it puts them in the blind CC field. This is important to me anyway, and to some people, because now I'm not sharing everybody's email address with everybody else in the group. They get an email from me, and they don't get anybody else's email address. I could also just email any individual, if I wanted to email Chris Tyne, just by tapping on his email. And when I do that, notice it comes to the to field because it's only to him. So emailing the group is an awesome thing to do right out of your solution. Sometimes people will want to use email services like MailChimp and things like that. When using one of those services, the best thing to do is export the emails. So I click on Export Emails, and that will export the emails for that found set. Now it gives me the dialog of how do I want to save that. Typically I save it as a spreadsheet, and I'll just put new emails and save it to the desktop. You'll notice that this came up here. So this list of emails just shows you exactly what's in this new email spreadsheet. So if you look at it, they are the same. So that just saves you from having to open up this additional document. So that way you know, okay, that's what's in there. I am ready to upload it to MailChimp or whatever my email service is. You could also export them as contacts that you could then import into your contacts. And you can do that by one or for the group. Or you can export the new emails. So if you're maintaining a large list where it goes to everybody in your practice, then I would do export new emails. And then it says, okay, well, when was the last time you did that? Maybe I did it on January 1st. And again, I get the same interface. So I could save this as a CSV, which is typically how the address books will import them. And I can put new contacts and save that again to the desktop. So that saves. And then again, you see there were 3 folks. So I could also choose to export these contacts so that I can have them, in my contacts on my phone or whatever, though you can open up the solution on your iPhone if you like. But let's say I want them somehow in a different service. I could do export contacts, and this is the current set. Typically, we'll save this as a CSV, comma separated, because that's how the different address books will be able to import them. And then it shows me these are all the people in that group. So again, I don't have to open that file. I know exactly who I will be importing when I get there. One additional note about this interface. So you'll notice there's an unsubscribed email here. And emails in this field won't appear on an exported email list. And that's because maybe you put somebody on your big MailChimp mailing list. Let's say Chris Tyne was on your MailChimp mailing list and he unsubscribed from it. I don't want to accidentally subscribe him again in the future. So I take it out of his home email and I put it in this unsubscribed email. Now I have the information. I can still email him directly. But whenever I do an export emails or export new emails, his won't come up because he's unsubscribed from my previous mailings. So back to it. We found 12 people that attended this lecture and we want to send them some sort of follow-up. We could have done it with an email, but maybe instead we decided to do an offer letter. So we could do mailing labels. So we do the mailing labels. And then you'll see I can print them, I can export them as a PDF, and that's everybody that's in that group, except for Freddie, who apparently we need to get their full address from. And we can print that out and it tells you this is the Avery 5160 and all the measurements that you need. And then I could pair that with an offer letter. So if I do offer letters, then I get an offer letter for every single person in the group. And if you go through it, you'll notice there's Chris and there's Chris, but eventually we get to Bing. There's a Chris and a Chris, then we got to Bing. So everybody gets a personalized letter. Now I could update that letter simply by clicking here. Hope you have a lovely fall. I could do the signature on the iPad. Or I could drag another file in. So let's say that I wanted to replace that coupon. I could simply delete this one and drag in another. And you see it's a slightly different color. I don't like that as well as the original, so I can just put that original back in there. So it's very flexible. And then if I want to, I could create a PDF and print these later. And it's a really nice way of following up with that group. If I chose to do an offer letter just to the one person, in this case it'd be Cynthia Crawford because we're on her record, and I did one offer letter, then I also get the ability to email this directly to her. So if I click email, it will convert it to a PDF. And then that PDF is automatically attached to an email. So I can even email offer letters individually. We can also find people who owe money or who have a balance. So if I go back into find mode, and this time I'm just going to type Command F, I could say, who has a balance of greater than 0? Turns out that Chris Tyne owes us $5. And if we look down here, record 1 of 2, there must be another person. If we look at all services for him and we scroll through those, we'll notice that there's an adjustment in which he was charged $50 and he paid $45. Next time he comes in, it's right there on the main screen, and I know to ask for the $5. See who the next person is. It's Frank. Frank owes $50. We look at all of his. Apparently he just didn't pay for his last adjustment. Maybe he's due to buy a package next time. Again, next time he comes in, it's right there on the record. Now I could also choose to send them an invoice, and we'll look at invoices later, but I could run an invoice right here. And so I run an invoice based on that find. It shows the adjustment, and then I can simply tap email. And again, the invoice is automatically attached to an email, and I could email him that invoice if he's not scheduled to come in again. So we found people who owed money. Let's find people who still have money left on a package. I hit Command F again, and this time, instead of greater than 0, I'll do less than 0. And it looks like Chris Moore still has money left on a couple packages, and that other payor, the insurance company, still owes us. Looks like Christopher Lane has just bought a package. And it looks like Christine has a little bit left on her package. And again, her insurance company owes us a little bit of money as well. So there's all kinds of different ways of finding folks. So now let's look at omitting people. So let's go back to finding our chiropractic clients. We've got our group of 27 people. And let's say that for whatever reason, you want to leave Chris Mass out of this group. Maybe you were following up with him and you've already called him, so you don't need his record up anymore. So you just tap this. It omits him from the current set. So notice there's 1 of 27 here. I tap that. Now it's 1 of 26. So this is a great way of managing follow-up calls. So maybe I have this window open over here, and then I have the next client coming in here. So I can have multiple windows open and also multiple found sets. So maybe Harold Smitty's my next client, but I'm working through this call list. So on the right here, I have, again, my 26 people that I've got left to call. And on the left, I have Harold Smitty, who happens to be coming in next to get adjusted. So I call Chris and remind her that she still has visits left on her package. Maybe she'd like to schedule. After I'm done speaking with her, I take her out of that found set. I call Christopher. All the while, I'm working through this over breaks and gaps between clients coming and going. Meanwhile, Harold Smitty comes in, and I maybe do a new service for him or do whatever I need to do with him, and then I can go back to my call list and keep working through until eventually I've omitted everybody from my calling group. Finally, I might like to create a group from scratch. Maybe I want to email 3 or 4 people and I just happen to know their names and I want to say the same thing to all of them. And let's say that Harold was one of them. So there's Harold Smitty. Now we have a group of 1. And now I want to add to this group. So I add, and then I'm looking for George. Now I've got 2. And maybe I'm also looking for Bing. And find, and because each time I chose to find and add the records to the group, now I have 3 people. And again, I could email that group, I could do offer letters, I could follow up with them however I wanted. It's very flexible. You can have so many windows open, and then you can have different found sets in each window. You could work through a call list at the same time that you're handling clients that are walking through the door. Finally, you can delete clients. Most of the time, you shouldn't. But there is this delete button right here. So if I hit delete, I'll get this warning right now. This client has services, and it shows you all the services for that client. If you delete the client, you'll not only lose the client information, but all the services and associated records, meaning all these sales would also go off of your annual reports. So generally, you don't want to do this. You only want to delete a client if you just created a dummy client and you entered some services and now you want to delete that, or there's a client with no services. It's rare that you actually want to delete clients. If you do create empty clients like that, I created a new client with no information. Notice now I've got 2 records in that group. I created another empty client, no information. And I created another empty client with no information. So now I have 3 empty clients. Record 4 is empty, record 3 is empty, record 2 is empty. So that maybe is an accident that I was doing. Those are okay to delete. So if I went to one of those empty records, I could hit delete, and that would be no problem. It just says deleted client can't be undone. To keep the records, select cancel. To delete, hit delete. We'll delete them, no problem. Now, if I go to maintenance, notice we have 35 clients in here, 2 of which are still empty. I could hit delete empty client records, and that means it's going to delete a client where there's no first or last name. So I hit delete client records, and they've been all cleaned up. And notice now we only have 33 in our solution. I highly encourage you to take advantage of all the wonderful find options to keep in touch with your clients. Now, there is one report that is a little bit like a find based on client follow-up. So we'll look at that right now. And it is called the recent client follow-up report. So I run that. This report shows me all activity from the previous 90 days. It gives me sorted by client underneath their name, what they came in for, and the notes. So now I can scroll through this group of people that recently came in and call them or follow up if they haven't scheduled another visit. So maybe I've forgotten about somebody. Maybe I forgot about Christopher Lane, bought a 5-pack, and I haven't seen them in a couple of months. So I could tap on email, and again, automatically an email is open for Christopher Lane. If I'm bringing this up on my iPhone, I could even dial the phone right from here. If not, the phone number is right there. I tap it in, I call that person, I can follow up. So it's not exactly a find, but it's a great way of following up with clients. Scroll through and look for the people that haven't scheduled or that you haven't heard from. So while this isn't exactly a find, I thought it belonged here because it's such a great way of following up with clients. So you can scroll through it for people that you saw a couple of months ago and perhaps you've forgotten about and get in touch with them again.